Burundian President Pierre Nkurunziza announced his intention to seek another term last April. It was a decision that ultimately plunged the nation into a major political crisis. My colleague Paul Scico has more.
More than 25 million people have fled Burundi in the last year. More than 400 Burundians have been killed, and thousands more have been injured and arrested since President Pierre Nkurunziza's announcement that he would run for another term. Activists, senior government officials, and journalists are among those being targeted and killed. Last week, a military advisor to the vice president was killed along with his wife and daughter. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and others have condemned the violence and attacks. Mediation talks have repeatedly failed to ease tensions or end the protests and crackdowns. Former Tanzanian President Benjamin Mkapa is now the new regional mediator for Burundi. Talks that were to begin last Monday in Arusha have been postponed. Officials say peace talks will resume in a few weeks. They say more consultation with the Burundian government and its opposition is needed. Meanwhile, arrests and attacks continue in and around Bujumbura. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights says the situation is out of control.
The time for piecemeal responses and fiddling around the edges is over. The situation in Burundi demands a robust, decisive response from the international community. I called last month on the Security Council to consider all possible steps to stop the ongoing violence and prevent a regional conflict. Impunity currently enjoyed by perpetrators of human rights violations, as well as by members of unidentified armed groups, is contributing to individuals increasingly taking the law into their own violent hands.
The U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Human Rights Council, Keith Harper, explains that all avenues must be pursued to stop the fighting.
The United States strongly believes that the international community must use all the tools available to push for an immediate end of the cycle of violence perpetrated by both the security forces and elements of the armed opposition.
The International Criminal Court has opened an investigation into human rights violations. There are increasing reports of torture, disappearances, and deadly attacks by both security personnel and those opposing President Nkurunziza. Members of the Burundian diaspora and exiled civil society leaders demonstrated in front of the United Nations in New York last week.
We really need to all stand together. This is not a Burundi issue. This is not an African issue. This is a humanity issue. This can easily turn into a regional war. The UN must wake up.
They are calling on the international community to send a robust UN police force to help protect civilians as the country enters a second year of political crisis. Paul Scico, VOA News.
Thanks, Paul, for that report.